All right, we're going to call to order this meeting of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority for November 19th, 2024. And I'll ask our clerk if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Here.
Commissioner Short,
I'm here.
Chair and Score.
I'm here. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which is nation under God, indivisible, with justice. Thank you. Do we have any general public comment? Any member of the public is invited to address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off our agenda? Any public comment this afternoon? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. We do have an item that is an urgent item that has been brought to my attention after the posting of the agenda. And so yeah, I would entertain a motion regarding this item that has been presented to the board members.
I so move.
No, second.
Do you have a copy of this? Do you want it read into the record? Yeah. Well, if you don't mind reading the second portion of the records, I'd
Oh.
appreciate it. So the public knows the item who may be tuning in.
You
Very
want
good.
us, you want us to do that for?
Okay.
Yes, please.
Chair, add the following motion. A motion to add the following item to the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not what we're looking for.
The
is
second
it?
paragraph down there, yeah.
The second-
Authorized
all right.
signatures.
Move that we authorize signatures for an engagement letter with Harshwall and Company LLP for an audit of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, for a gross fee of $14,450, excluding expenses.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. That is to add this item. It will be taken up as item 6.2 if approved. Would you please, do any public comment? Would you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Tompkins,
Here, yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes, all right, we'll take that up as item 6.2. All right, moving into consent, we have two items on consent, the minutes from the special session of the 22nd of October and the budget transfer for fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $1,820. Any comment, public, on the consent? Seeing none, we'll close.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve both items on consent.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Yes, a second.
Kira, would you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to section number 2, our director's reports. Sure.
Thank you, Chair and Score. So once again, the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority continues to operate the Klamath, Gasky, and Del Norte County transfer stations and to provide required monitoring and accounting along with reports to overseeing agencies. The authority staff provide these services without any financial support from the City of Crescent City or the County of Del Norte and without receiving a penny of taxes. The per ton rates charged to authority managed facilities continue to be lower than charges for equivalent services at facilities in Humboldt and Curry counties. Looking at community events, the Del Norte County Transfer Station will be closed on Thanksgiving on November 28th, and Recology Del Norte collections normally scheduled for Thursday or Friday that week will be delayed one day. Of course, Thanksgiving is also a time for community events, so I wanted to highlight that the Del Norte High School Parent Teachers and Students Association is doing a food drive, and if you want to participate at that, they're taking donations of canned foods and cereals at a location between the library and the front gate of the high school. There's also going to be a community Thanksgiving dinner at the Del Norte County Fairgrounds on November 28th between 12 and 2. And there's also a push to gather coats for kids, and that's organized through KCRE and KPOD, and that'll run through December 30th. And you can drop off children's coats that are still useful to Recology, Del Norte, Les Schwab, Seaquake, and PEMA down in Klamath. We had a marine flare collection event, second one we've had on Saturday, November 2nd. I'd like to thank Assistant Director Kira Seymour for organizing all of that and for working with California Product Stewardship Council on securing the grant to provide those services. We had double the number of vehicles compared to the previous event, and we did invite folks from Humboldt to join as well. And this initiative aimed to raise the awareness about the dangers of traditional marine flares and to promote safer, eco-friendly LED alternatives. The event was a success in terms of participation and highlighted the community's commitment to protecting our coastline and sustainable ocean harvest. You've already approved the consent agenda, which included a budget transfer. I'll skip over items that are elsewhere on the agenda. Attached to this staff report is a final report for our first round of grants supporting our SB 1383 efforts, the OWR1 grant. Largely, we use that to purchase equipment to strengthen and improve the resilience of our food rescue and redistribution programs. We continue to participate in a monthly radio program called Rethinking Recycling on KFUG. We'll be on there again this Thursday. And during this period, we did hire a new gate staff employee who's being trained. His name is Ken Jackson. And in the hiring process, we also received a stack of acknowledgement forms from Del Norte County. And it's quite a comprehensive stack, but it is a reminder of all of the different requirements that we need to have our employees acknowledged. So we'll be updating our own policies and developing similar forms. A lot of the forms that we were handed by the county refer to county policies that do not affect our authority employees. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or I can move on to the financial reports.
Questions? All right, let's go ahead.
Okay, looking at our financial reports in the bank, we've got 2.748 million plus 198,000 for the last month's rent. So our finances, our cash balance continues to increase, and I'm delighted that this agency is in the black. Looking at our AR aging summary reports, you can see the only account that's gone over 90 days has already been referred to collections. Looking at claims approved by the director on item 2.3, you'll see once again our two major expenses are to Hambro WSG for the good services they provide at the Del Norte County Transfer Station. And the second largest expense is to the county for the interfund cost plan, essentially paying for the IT and auditing and personnel services provided through the county. Continuing on to the monthly cash and charge reports under item 2.4, our income came quite a bit ahead of our budgeted expenses. And so at this point in the year, looking at item 2.5, considering our revenues from tip fees at the transfer station, we are 88,400 ahead of budget there. And in terms of our franchise fees, we are 10,115 ahead of budget there. So our total income is 98,552 ahead of budget. So as you know, we always try to budget conservatively, so these income amounts tend to come in ahead of that, but it does show that our fiscal picture is strong for the agency. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions regarding finances? All right. If there's not any questions, then we'll move on to section 4. There's nothing in 3. Section 4, discussion regarding change order 1 with EBA Engineering.
EBA Engineering successfully completed our 5-year permit review for the Crescent City landfill. And from the outset, when we wrote that RFP and when we hired the contractor, we always anticipated that we might use the same contractor to complete the similar process for the Del Norte County Transfer Station. And that's what we're recommending that we do here. It's for an additional fee of $15,235.40. I think that's a reasonable price for the services.
Question. We have sufficient budgetary to cover this cost?
We do.
All right.
We anticipate this to happen this year. Yes.
All right.
Good.
Any public comment? Okay, seeing none, then I'll take a motion regarding this action.
I'll move that we approve the change order for EBA Engineering.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right. Here, would you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Sharon Score.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to section 5.1, collection franchise update, possible action regarding Recology Del Norte's community cycling bins. And Smith River.
That's-
It's you. Good afternoon.
I'm going to say 90% of that is Smith River Post Office and the ship ashore. So oh, I've never done this before. So what am I doing now?
Just make it up.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so it looks like April, we went way back. We've had this PowerPoint for a little bit, but it goes all the way up to current. So these are some of the things that we're seeing outside of the bins at either of those facilities. Sometimes Fort Dick, but it's a lot more rare there. I think it's because it's by the fire station and they do have cameras, so people think that that's what's happening there. And then, go. And some more things that they are putting in that they shouldn't be. And what you see there are white bags that are actually going in the bin. Bags aren't allowed in those bins or in any bins or recycle carts as well at home. It has to be a clear see-through bag so that we can see what's in there is really recyclable material. So that's what we allow, even though we have to pull that out of the waste stream once it gets to Samoa to be sorted. And so that's what's going in there as well. We've got the trash on the side. This is the Smith River Post Office. Looks like there's clothes and chairs and black bags and trash. A lot of cardboard gets put outside of these bins. I think it's because it's such large pieces. They don't want, they can't stick it in there, so they just leave it on the outside. Again, we go and pick up everything. When it's at the ship, Julie emails me quite promptly saying stuff like looks ugly or clean up stuff. And it does. I don't blame her. When stuff looks like this and you've got residents surrounding that area, it's not very great to see. So I'm just going to go forward a little bit here. Again, more of the trash that we see. So this is actually us tipping a bin. Instead of at our recycle center, we're having to tip it on the tip floor because it's contaminated with so much trash that we can't put it into the truck to take it to Samoa because they can't sort this. So
And that's not out of the ordinary. That's every time. for
that's
Smith River.
almost every time.
Yeah.
Almost every time. So, it's sad. To me, it's sad. I understand there's a lot of people that can't afford trash service. I get that. But these are not what that's for, and it's ruining it for everyone. So we're going to move up pretty quick here. Just going to kind of glance through these photos because we want to get to the good news. And I'm really excited about it. We've been trying for a very long time to get the bins, the bin at the post office switched over to a different area. And we finally succeeded. It's now across the street on First Street, across from the library and the community hall there. They've let us, it's a gated area. So we took the post office bin from there. We put it in the gated area. They open it every morning at 8 and they close it every afternoon at 4. And so what happens from there is, I just want you to know that we dropped it there on the 4th this month, and it still has not needed to be serviced because people are not throwing their trash there. It's not as full. I've been up there a million times. I'm just so happy. I go up there all the time. I see if there's illegal dumping, and there's not. And so everything in there looked to be almost all recyclable material. And so it's just a very big win for us and the community and the people at the post office who are really angry about the mess and how awful it looked there. We have the ship ashore. We did move the box there to a different area, but it seems like the people are now dumping there because there is a side where you can't see from the street, where you can't see from the park. And so now everything is in that corner. And I kind of think that it would be nice to have both bins in the area over by the post office. But I know, there's a lot of people that live in Smith River. They can't always get their recycling to where, to certain spots. But it's working for this one.
Any questions?
No question. I mean, just a comment that it's great that we found a good spot for the one bin, but if the other bin continues to just be a free trash bin, I say we pull it. I don't understand why we would give free trash service to somewhere in the county when we don't do it everywhere.
Right.
So, that's just my thought on it.
What kind of alternatives do we have?
Well, it took many years to get this one to happen. So I think that, finally getting that done has proved that that's what we need. And so I think it would be easier now more than ever to decide if we can do that, if we can either pull it or put it where the other one is, because they're fine with it. They haven't had one problem. I talked to, I believe his name is, I can't think right now, I'm sorry, Jeff Beard, but I talked to him a lot, and he is really happy with the decision that they made, and says it's no skin off his nose to open it and lock it, in the morning and in the evening. Yay!
I tend to agree with Darren on this. Because this is years and years
Mhm.
Years.
of abuse. If there's a real strong, compelling community desire to have it there near the ship, then I would say that Ottawa needs to come forward and find us a comparable option in their area, as we have found in Smith River proper, where it can be gated, locked, secured, so that we can put an end to this. And without having that opportunity or willingness, then I think that we need to have a single location, because what we're providing is an opportunity for the ease of illegal dumping.
Correct.
That's what we're doing. We're making it more convenient for them to dump
Correct.
trash.
Right.
And I don't think that we need to be making it easier for people to dump trash. And that will then require someone else other than us or you to deal with, if people decide, if there's no bins there, to start dumping their trash there, then that's no longer something we have to manage. It's not our property. It's not that there's not availability for people to recycle who want to be responsible. The responsible recyclers, my opinion, will not find it unbearable to go to Smith River to recycle. I just don't. That's my personal belief. It's
Agreed.
always been my belief, is the people who are responsible, if you provide it in the Smith River area, they will go there to recycle, because they are responsible people. The people who want an easy way to get rid of their trash are going to take that opportunity that has been presented to them for years in multiple locations. Clearly, moving the other bin, securing it after regular sort of working hours has been a good solution.
It was a great solution. And Julie at Howenquet Park does not want that bin there. She requests that I don't know who's the one that can do that, can request that it not be there or be there, but as far as the park goes, but she hates it there. Like I said, I get emails daily from her, with she just hates the way it looks when it's messy. That park is a fairly nice park.
Yeah.
And, you know, she does a good job there. So she doesn't like it when there's a mess. And the day she sends the email is the day that we have to send a truck up to go pick up all that stuff. And
So sorry, I had to step out to tend to my vehicle, but if I'm understanding what's being discussed here, we've had one bin that's moved, and you're
Yes.
talking about the possibility of thinking about moving the other one?
what I was saying was, no, what I was saying was that we moved the post office bin to the new location on the 4th of November. And as of this date, it still hasn't needed to be serviced, and there's been no mess anywhere. It's getting full, and it's all great recycling. There's a couple of things here and there that people aren't getting, but for the most part, I think it looks beautiful. So, but the ship
Still
is-
has the same problem.
still has the problem, and I'm wondering if it's even worse now.
So I think if it's okay with the board, we'll continue conversations with the Talo Adeni and their governmental structure to try to figure out. I totally hear and really am delighted that by putting the recycling bin behind a fence that gets locked at the nighttime, that's really cut down our illegal dumping. So we're going to be talking about and looking towards a similar thing for the ship, but they've got all sorts of aesthetic considerations. I don't anticipate that they would want a big fence in that area where we have the drop-off bins, but that doesn't mean that's the end of the discussion. So,
Right.
so I think we'll continue these discussions and come back to the board if there's going to be any change. That sound acceptable?
I would say that we pull that bin at Smith River, or at Ship Ashore, until we figure out a solution in those talks. That would be something that I would be in favor of, because we're just having a free garbage bin there.
There's no sense
No.
enabling that kind of behavior.
The part of the challenge is, and I don't disagree with that, but part of the challenge is that there is we have established within our structure and within our contract that these bins are provided. And so just pulling it, not that I'm against that, but without there being a plan in place, but I think that the Smith River community, including the Talwadeni, need to take ownership over this issue. And I think that we very clearly, maybe an outreach to Supervisor Howard, his district, as well as the Talwadeni, to simply say the authority is at a point in time where if there is a need for this volume of recycling in the Smith River area, we're going to put both of these bins in a central location where it can be managed more effectively. If that's not acceptable to you, then we need some options, because we cannot continue to do what we're doing.
I don't know what the contractual obligations are, but I would put a very short date on that.
Sure.
I think
You know,
we can have that conversation within the next couple months. And the contractual obligations are that Recology provide a certain number of recycling bins for the community, and the locations specified are general areas. So there's one in Hiuchi, few in Smith River. It's not specific to the location because we trust that Recology is required to do that. So they're the ones who administer figuring out and securing the locations. We still have a role to play. And like I said, I think over the next couple months, we can come to, I hear very clearly your suggestion that we pull the bin immediately because of the concerns about it. I think after communications with them, within a couple months, we can either pull or move the bin.
And the authority is, I'm sorry, the authority is responsible for taking on the cost of the dumping of that?
No,
So
no.
is Recology,
They have swallowed these extra disposal costs for an extended period of time, and part of the reason to try to address this is that's not right.
Is there a question, are we talking about renegotiating the
No.
contract?
No.
I guess
Should we be?
But given a couple, I'm going to be retired anyway, couple months seems too long from this vantage point is that we have 2 weeks of history with this now, and clearly the volume of appropriate recycling is not of such that in the Smith River, North County, that we need, that there is a demand for 2 separate locations and that volume of bins. I guess the question would be how much legitimate recycling, and this is the problem. There's no way to tell in the existing bins. I've looked. I remember back in the day when we were bringing stuff out to Hambro and dumping it all out on the floor out there. And every week I went out and played trash czar to say, yes, send it to the landfill.
We can keep doing that.
I guess I just feel like if the volume is not, if it does not present a hardship to the community because there's no place for them or no volume allowed for them to be able to recycle, that would be a different story. How much more room is there in the secure location that it's in now?
It's a pretty big area.
To move the bins. The challenge is that not everybody has equal levels of mobility. And so folks at the north end of Smith River don't always have the capacity to get to where the bins would be located in front of the community hall. Again, my inclination is to engage the Taloadeni Nation in a discussion with their staff about what they think is going to be the most appropriate move here. And in some ways, the reason why I was suggesting 2 months is that sometimes they have their own approval process and they want to engage different folks in different departments. And so I wanted to make sure that there was time for that conversation.
I'm curious how this contract works and why, if Recology is paying the bill, why it comes before this board for approval.
Recology is within their powers to already suggest a change of location. They have not done that for the ship ashore bin. We did have that for the bin at the Smith River Post Office, and that bin is moved.
But part of the reason for that historically is there's just not been any other viable options. It's not as if the Smith River community has been oblivious to this issue or that the concerns have not been expressed. My opinion, the only reason we have a solution where we have now is because somebody came to the table and offered a solution, or we would still be battling with both areas. But we had somebody come with a possible solution, and no one has presented in the years that I've been here any possible solutions prior to that.
But that's more or less correct. But I think I credit Recology for finding that other location. And similarly, we could apply the similar sort of thing of find another location. But
Well,
it is within their control. But at the same time, I think we have a positive, helpful role we can play.
yeah, I agree.
So the last thing I want to say is we do have the task force with Taloadini Nation. They are involved, and they were very grateful for this move. With this bin, for this particular bin, they know all about the illegal dumping, and we're very happy with the move from the post office to. And I understand what Director Ward's saying, but I also know that I'm not sure it would be too upsetting for them to move that bin to another area, but I mean, it does have to go to them first before we do something like that. I agree with that.
Well, we certainly appreciate Recology's continuance of willing to help address this and cover some of these costs for the irresponsible behavior of the people of Delaware County, because that's all there is to it. I mean, it's irresponsible behavior. We've talked about this for years, and it doesn't just happen at our bins. It happens in the recycling stream. Part of the reason that we did reduce the contract is the reality that we're faced with some of these things, and I just don't know how you change that kind of behavior. We've tried it with education. We've done workshops. We've tried new new visuals. I guess if people just don't want to do what they're supposed to do, they're just not going to.
And that's part of my
it's-
concern, is that essentially once folks get into that habit, if we block it up, that habit may continue elsewhere. So we really want to be thoughtful about how we do the transition.
So is that contract with Recology then, or is it with, oh, okay, so we basically don't have a say in where that bin is.
We're partners. We try to work together. I feel that our reaching out to the Ottawa Dene may be helpful in this process.
I like how we're partners and you pay. I like that.
This is where I don't say a word except that this was fun.
Any public comment? All right. seeing
I
none-
guess one other thing that is worth saying is while it's true that Recology has been bearing that burden, and it's not insignificant, they also receive more revenues from the Del Norte solid waste system than any other player, than the authority, than Hambro. Recology has 2/3 of the revenue. So
Who's that?
Okay, we're gonna move on to section 6, and we're gonna discuss first 6.1, a possible amendment to the contract with DDR Cleaning and Hauling. Director Ward.
yes, this is essentially our cleanup contractor. We put a lot of different things potentially into this scope of work. If we absolutely need to use DDR for vegetation control with the landfill, for instance, we can use them for that. They've been a very effective partner in working with the Forest Service grant that we have. So essentially, the Forest Service identifies areas that need to be cleaned up, and we act as middleman to make sure that that happens. So we're looking at extending this agreement for another 5 years. There's a slight adjustment in terms of the compensation because of adjustments to minimum wage and prevailing wages. But with those changes, staff recommend approval of this amendment number 2.
All right. Any questions for Director Ward on this?
No, the biggest part of this was that he wanted a clause in there so he could terminate the agreement. Didn't we have it before where only we could?
That's
terminate
correct.
the agreement?
That's the only difference in
That's the
the
I mean,
contract language.
There is a small amount of dollars in there, but that's the biggest reason DDR wanted to change.
Well, bottom line is we wanted to do this because we wanted to extend the agreement. If we don't extend this agreement, that it ends at the end of this calendar year.
Gotcha. With that, I'll move that we approve the agreement.
I'll second.
Any public comment? All right, I have a motion and a second. Carrie, will you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Tompkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes. Okay, item 6.2, the urgency item, the engagement letter with Harshwell and Company for audit services. Director Ward?
We received this morning, but as you may recall, Harshwell and Company is the auditing firm that does the annual audit for the county, and because they're reviewing many of the same records, they also generally get contracted by this agency to do our audit. And so this letter of engagement is the contract process. So we're looking for approvals of signatures on this letter of engagement, and it's for an amount of $14,450 plus expenses. To my knowledge, they haven't charged expenses on any of their previous bills, so that's the amount I would expect that we would pay for this audit.
All right, any questions for Director Ward?
Like I said, in previous bills, the amount that's is generally has not included separate charges for expenses. I think it's if they had extraordinary charges, then they'd leave themselves open to be able to make those additional charges.
Okay, anything else?
I made an assumption, but I'm not seeing it now. When is this due?
They're actually in town and have started asking us for information. And in that interaction, I said, well, we need to have an engagement letter. And so that's what's before us. Essentially, until we have a contract, we really can't start the work, but they're eager to start the work, so we're eager to have a contract.
I was just thinking about the impropriety of adding this as a emergency item, but it's already a done deal, so. I just didn't see where this had to be completed or there was anything that needed to be completed prior to our next meeting.
If we don't sign
have
this
asked this
engagement
earlier.
letter, then we won't engage Harshwall until we do have a signed engagement letter. So that's the urgency. Essentially, we'd like to start the work.
I guess it's a done deal already. I made an assumption that something had to be done prior to our next meeting, and it doesn't look like it doesn't look like there is anything there that has that requirement. So I don't know really what I should have asked that question when we were talking about making it an emergency item, and I did not.
So your concern is just procedure.
Yes, yes. Yeah. That's the way I understand it, is that it has come to the attention of the organization since the agenda was posted, and it needs action prior to the next meeting. And I don't see where it is, where it needs action prior to the next meeting.
Without action, the work for conducting the audit will not begin. That's the entirety of the urgency. They're here now. They're ready to do the work. We're ready to do the work, but we can't do the work until we have an agreement.
I guess a question that I might ask then for you, Bob, is the fact that Harshwell is here present and willing to start the work. Is it justifiable for us to add this as an urgent item so that work can be started, even though there's no requirement that the work start? The fact that they are here present and are willing, does that qualify of us adding this item as a urgent item for today?
Well, I think in the abstract, it's kind of right on the line that it's obviously to the benefit of the organization to have the audit go forward in a timely manner. In other words, to get started as opposed to postponing. I think the fact that Harshwall is present may be a factor that tips it in the direction of justifying the urgency item. It wouldn't be decisive in itself, but in combination with the general desirability of having the audit get started and proceed in an orderly manner and not have other entities, for example, get theirs started and then we become, second order of priority or third order of priority. So those are considerations. I think yes. I think the answer is yes. You're justified to treat
Okay.
this.
And that certainly
I
satisfies
can
me.
certainly see where it would be more efficient. I just had that concern. So thank
Yeah.
you, Bob.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
As an uneducated public member, tell me what was due. If Bob had said no, it's not viable, what would the consequences of that?
We could simply choose not to take action. Just because we added it, we could add it to the agenda and then get counsel from our legal counsel. And because we didn't ask them this question when we added it, and simply said, if it's 49-51 against, we're not comfortable with this, and we would have simply provided direction to Director Ward to seek getting this engagement and start when we have our next meeting.
The whole desire is that we be the most open with the public, and that's why we post the
Thank you.
agenda ahead of time. This was not on the agenda. The public did not get a chance to look at it.
Yeah,
So,
there we go.
we
Thank
could,
you.
we could have somebody say, that solid waste is just willy-nilly throwing stuff on the agenda to hide it from the
Mm.
public.
There we
And
go.
we certainly don't want that. We want to
Nope.
be as open with the public as possible. So that's
Yeah.
where I was. So,
Yeah, thank
yep.
you.
It's a it's a good discussion. It's a good learning process always, in just what you said. About
Hopefully, I'm not
transparency.
the only public person who heard that.
We do want the public involved, but we do want to operate efficiently as well. So
All right, so we do have an item in front of us, and I would look for, if there is a desire to act on this engagement letter, then I would take that at this time.
so I would go ahead and move then to authorize signatures on an engagement letter with Harshwall and Company for audit services.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we'll close it. And Kara, would you please call the vote?
Commissioner Tompkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes. Very good. We are at the end of our agendized items. We do have a closed session item. We do not anticipate that there will be anything to report out of closed session, but we will indicate the end of our meeting when we are finished. So-
Chair, could I just quickly, if we're not already adjourned, just one thing that I wanted to bring up real quickly, as it's not on the agenda, but it's an issue that I'm noticing as I drive around town. The bins that we use do not deal well with this weather. And I'm wondering if there's any thought on the board of recommending that we do something about that to make them more resilient to this kind of wild weather, which is not unusual in this county.
Yeah, I think that's something we can ask for Director Ward to reach out to Recology and report back to us at our next meeting. I will say that depends on which bins you're looking at. Obviously, the bins that have been retrofitted, they handle
Actually-
this weather much better than the old bins did.
Are we talking about the street side containers or the
street side
the
containers. I should have
curbside
been-
carts?
I should have been more clear.
Carts?
Street side containers.
Oh, I was thinking you were talking
I'm
about the
sorry,
public
yeah.
bins.
That's my
I've never
my
called them.
Thinking, man,
miscommunication.
Compared to those
Yeah.
old metal ones, we're doing really, really good.
I've never called them carts before, but in your
Carts.
talking about standing there and watching the recyclables and deeming what is what.
Yeah,
Today, you just have to drive around and go, oh, that's not recyclable. That's not, because it's all stuck in the fences. It's all over the streets.
Yep.
Everything blew over today.
yeah.
So,
I
at least
tried
in
to
my
close the
neighborhood,
lids on mine and the wind just pops them right back open. It's like-
Pops them open, dumps them over. It's-
Yeah.
it's-
So
Yeah.
it's just something that I think we might want to talk about. And
For the next time we purchase
Yeah.
not bins, carts. excuse me.
cards.
So what some people do is they will put a brick or a rock on top of the carts. Under weather like this, there's almost nothing that's going to stop it. The reason why I had to leave the meeting was that the back hood on my truck was blowing up, and they were afraid that it was going to blow off. That lid is way heavier than any lid you'll find on any trash
Right.
cart
Yeah.
anywhere. So
And
there are limitations.
Obviously, a bungee cord isn't a good idea since that would, they couldn't dump it.
And there are bear-proof carts that have, essentially, bottom line is pretty much anything you want to do to address this is more expensive and more problematic. It introduces their own challenges, but we absolutely can have that conversation and look again to see if there's something we can do better.
Thank you.
We live close. We could just screw some eye bolts into the street and just
Yeah.
ratchet strap them.
Yep. Of cart
We
carts.
can't dump them, but boy, those lids stay shut.
Yep.
You know, the lid has to open to dump the trash. It's just a novel concept.
We'll ask the drivers if they'd rather operate a ratchet strap or pick up the garbage.
Yeah, I can answer that. Okay.
Moving right along.
All right. Well, I'll come back out to identify our actual adjournment time, but we are going to retire to close session for 8.1 public employee performance evaluation of our director. Thank you.
I'm going to take a quick